Power in London podcast. I'm your host, Stolana Lewis. Today, me and Kristen, we dive into training or onboarding beginner versus intermediate or advanced athletes and kind of how we go about doing each one. We also go into, do we speak to our clients who are male versus female difference, or just like personality wise, how do we kind of talk to our athletes and change it up if we need to? And I give you a fun story about my dating life, which is a dumpster fire. So if it's not your first time listening to the podcast, please do leave us a 5-star review and a rating. We will read it for you during the episode. We appreciate the ones you got so far. It is currently the end of August 2024, and we're at 61 ratings. And it'd be amazing to get through September and be at 70 ratings. That's just 9 more ratings, guys. So please help us out, and let's go ahead and dive into today's episode. All right, we are back, y'all. How are you doing, Kristen?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. Solana, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. I had a weekend. I had a fun weekend, but it was interesting.
Do you want to tell us about your weekend?
No, no, at all.
Are you going to be going on any lives anytime soon?
No lives, no dates. Nope, neither one.
Well, that's unfortunate.
2024 is horrible. Just know. Or almost dating in 2020. Horrible.
I feel like you have to do a background check or do like before you go on a date, you have to get a little bit of, you can't just jump into it. You kind of have to do a little background before, because I've actually a while ago almost have gone on a date with someone, and sorry if you hear my dog barking, I apologize. I sent this message to my mom, and I'm like, oh, I met this guy. This was like through a dating app. He seems nice, whatever. I gave him, what's his name? My mother is like the FBI. And 20 minutes later, she sends me a screenshot of his Amazon wedding registry.
Wow.
Yes. And so obviously that didn't go anywhere. And I'm so thankful, because I definitely dodged a bullet. But it's like one of these things that I'm like, oh my God, can you imagine if I don't think to look at that stuff. Like, I'm not going on anyone's Amazon, like, oh, this guy is, seems really nice. Let me go see if he has a wedding registry on Amazon. That's just not something that I think of when I'm like.
I would never think of the Amazon thing until now, but I definitely think about trying to research them. And here's the problem, right? People don't put like their full name. Mm-hmm. Right. And sometimes they will use a fake name or use a name that's just like even me, like I abbreviate my name now. It's like, you're not going to find me. You're not going to find me. But what's scary, it's like I'm trying to protect myself, but it's scary because like you don't know who the hell you're talking to. Could be a
and you're going to meet this person, supposedly, one-on-one. So if you do, it's always go meet in public.
Of course, well, now we gotta be smart here. Yes, you meet them in public. I always FaceTime beforehand.
Go on Amazon, check and see if they have any registries.
Or you know what? If there's first of all, I think this is a very new update for Instagram. I don't think this should happen. The person who I almost went on a date with this past weekend, who thank God I did not, sent me a text that had a link to an Instagram video that was random. It was about nail art, because I told him I like to get my nails done, right? He did not realize that when you send a link, it will tell you who sent it. So he sent it to my text messages, it said, oh, blah, 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 sent you this. Do you want to follow? So I clicked on their page, and I had access, and I found everything. I found the YouTube, I found the podcast, I found the Instagram, I found the...
You found his life.
Ooh, he likes to talk about his dating life for sure on YouTube and give advice about dating.
Clearly you found it.
I found it. So my advice is don't date him. And
he's going to be listening to our podcast now, and he's going to be so pissed.
First of all, I wish he would. I wish he had looked me up and found me, so he could one day listen to this episode and be like, oh my God.
He's talking about me.
But I will say this, because everyone's like, what the hell are you talking about? I need to get to the point, but to the actual topic. But I did get to watch this person who I almost went on a date with. I watched him go on a live talking about dating women. I texted him during the live, and he read my text out loud and started talking about how women want him so badly, and how like he's got this girl texting him right now, and yet people had the audacity to think that they should be like chased, like, but women should be chasing him. It was insane. And I'm watching him talk about me on this live stream, and I'm like, I wish I had a video of me watching him talk about me while I text him on this live, but Yeah, anywho.
We should have done the podcast and had you text him while we were giving the podcast and then had him give the reaction. And then us just talking podcast while he was talking shit about you.
Oh my god. Okay. So anywho, what are we talking about? Let's
Well,
start
we won't be
talking.
talking about this guy anymore.
Never
Clearly.
I unmatched him on Hinge. Anywho, topic number one is coaching beginners versus intermediate lifters. And more so, I guess, the process of getting them started, how you kind of come up with their program when you have like data on one person versus, hi, I've never competed. Maybe they've squatted before. Maybe they've like, it can be anything from I've never done a squat to I've been taking CrossFit classes for fun and now I want to do powerlifting. And from there, you have to, teach them even how to squat to depth and teach them what an arch is. So like the very long array of where they could be on the spectrum.
Yeah. Usually, I mean, I would say majority of my lifters probably have at least some sort of powerlifting background, just because I think that's probably for you too. That's kind of what you're known for as a coach is your powerlifting experience. So when you have lifters that are reaching out, they're probably reaching out for powerlifting coaching for the most part. I have had clients in the past, and actually someone that am working with right now, for example, who is more just looking for general programming and wanting a program to follow. And in that case, I've generally always prescribed some sort of, squatting and benching and deadlifting, but I might not be that particular. So, if they're not hitting depth, if they're not competing in powerlifting, I'm probably not going to be as stringent as I would be if they were competing, or say if I'm working with an athlete, like in track and field, for example, who their definition of 90 degrees is very different than powerlifting. And sometimes it's funny because I'll see them and I'm like, oh my God, that was a quarter squat. But, them, it's 90 degrees and you kind of just have to, separate the two sports. So that's one is majority of the time that I've had lifters or someone who maybe has squatted, but maybe not has performed a powerlifting squat. So in that case, it's usually just teaching them to get comfortable, getting a little bit lower. That 90 is not their 90. It just takes, it's a little bit of these technical changes. But if I've worked with people who have maybe are uncomfortable, say, my mother, for example, who's pretty much maybe have never had a barbell on their back before, I would probably start them getting comfortable performing the squat itself. So in that case, maybe I have them starting with a goblet squat. And so there's that counterweight to kind of help them stay upright and stay forward so they're not falling backwards, and teaching them to just get comfortable getting deep into the squat position. And a lot of it too, it might be a mobility thing. It might not. A lot of it is just a coordination and a comfort thing that I think newer lifters may not just be comfortable squatting that deep. So that's usually just a comfort thing that it just takes a little while for them to become comfortable with. From there, I might have them again adding just maybe a barbell on their back, no weight whatsoever, and then more tempos. So they're not doing a regular squat. They're just kind of feeling their body in space. So when you're doing the tempo, you can kind of feel as your body tries to kind of correct itself in a sense. Even you've probably done it too, where you add these tempos and you can feel your your body shifting and like, oh, that's how it's supposed to feel. So those kind of things are always helpful. And then as far as cueing, I'm always of the mindset that less is more. So I think a lot of times people will kind of self-correct on their own, and you'll look at one week and it's kind of like that first one, you're like, oh my God, that looks so bad, but I'm not going to say anything. You're like, great, good job. This looks great. But a lot of it is just, it's just this like neural, like this coordination, right? Like the first time that you try writing, if you're right-handed and you try to write with your left hand at first, it's just going to look like shit, right? You're not used to doing it. That's kind of like you're learning a new skill, you're learning a new movement pattern. So it's just going to look bad no matter how much I try to cue you how to do it. It's going to look bad. And then as you do it over time, you're just going to get better. So I will try to kind of like maybe the big things that I see, like the breathing and the bracing will be the big cues that I might give in the beginning. But a lot of those cues will probably self-correct over time. And then yeah, and then as the lifter practices that skill, then you can kind of get into like the nitty-gritty and all these little things that you and I have been doing for the past 10 years and we're still trying to figure it out. What about you?
Uh, yes. So, okay, I'll start with beginner like you did, and then I'll go into like people who have data. So, one thing about me is I only have two people on my roster who are not actively competing in powerlifting, and
Yeah.
both of them started out competing when they were with me, and they like no, one of them started out competing when they were with me, and they decided to just like stop competing, but they still want to train for powerlifting stuff, but like have a bit more variety. And the other one came to me not competing, but like, she used to compete, likes the style of SBD, getting stronger, more max, but does not want to compete. Besides that, everyone competes. So I typically do not get the person coming to me to like just get stronger overall general population person. I tend to not take them on if they don't want to do powerlifting because like I'm only interested in powerlifting. Like I have a less love for programming for like just general strength. I
Yeah.
know how to do it. I was a personal trainer before powerlifting coaching. I was a personal trainer for like 6 years. So like I understand it very well. And I'm like the passion is just not as strong. So that person will have to kind of convey that they want to like get stronger in SBD. But that being said, when I take on someone who's new and they're beginner, it's definitely a lot more like we're programming to see if we can get their technique where it needs to be, just like you mentioned. So especially if they're beginner and never competed, they probably are not doing everything the standard. And that's when you use varieties such as the tempo or the pause squats, such as slow tempo bench presses, long pause bench presses, like stuff like that. So like they have to feel their body and they can kind of figure out like, hey, if I'm not using leg drive, this tempo is just really, really hard. And it's just my arms trying not to crush my face, like the point. So like that's kind of how you get them to learn. Pause deadlift, just there's a lot more variation. If they're also new, another thing is like way less, it's less specificity than a person who is like intermediate or been competing. Like I may get you pretty far in a few months with like a grand total of 6 barbell squats a week, not including like warming up to like the top set, whatever, right? Versus I might have like an intermediate or advanced person who needs like has to have 10 sets. I'm very specific about the intensity because like they need to grow in that area. But if you're so new to like just getting stronger, like I can still get you pretty strong doing machine work, doing dumbbell work. So it doesn't have to be so specific. And that way too, since it's so new to the person, that they're less likely to get kind of like flustered, like if they have less of the barbell squat bench they'll always be doing when they're so new, so they kind of suck at it. Like, so you know what I mean? Like, you're really new. It's hard to be like, I'm gonna barbell squat 3 times a week. Like every time it looks like crap.
Yeah.
And honestly, I'd rather like push you in a leg press and be like, let's get your legs stronger while I teach you how to do the squat better. Versus let me have you do 10
Yeah.
sets of really not great squats that could cause a problem because they're really not great. Like, so there's that too.
Yeah.
And you have no training data, so you kind of get to like free ball it a bit more and just see what's working. If anything's like blatantly not working, you adjust it. So it's like way more freedom in that. Like especially for me, you're gonna get if you're, let's say you're a middleweight female who has no experience. I'm definitely gonna look at a client who is also a middleweight female and make some changes, but it's gonna be pretty like similar to someone else I have because I'm just going based on what your body looks like and
Yeah.
like if you know how to do a squat bench or deadlift, right? It's not very specific to you.
Yeah.
Um,
I
so
think it's interesting that you mentioned how you are actually less specific in the beginning, and then as the lifter gains experience, you become essentially more specific. And I agree with you. And what's funny is that I used to actually be the opposite. Like I used to think that as a lifter was newer, that we wanted to be more specific because we wanted them to just practice the skill. And the more practice that they would have, the better that they would become. And then as they gained experience, and you would want them to kind of play around with different movements to kind of like prevent the like overuse. But my mindset has kind of changed on that, where you actually want them to have a little bit more variety in the beginning. And the reason for that, and I've actually like learned this more recently, is like and this is just one way to go about like learning is this like contextual interference where you're basically learning different skills, but and in doing so you kind of forget because you're learning all these things at once, but then you're relearning that skill again, and it kind of helps you to remember. It's kind of like a weird way of thinking about it, but you by learning different things, you ultimately will make you a better learner, or retain that information in the long term, even if you might forget it in the short term, if that kind of makes sense. And also, as like for someone like myself, and probably you, I'm sure that you can attest to this. I'm still trying to unlearn these movement patterns that I've learned from when I was like a newer lifter that I'm trying to unlearn. Like I still kick when I deadlift, you'll notice that I shift to the left and I kick the bar forward. And I mean, I've been trying to unlearn this for as long as I can for years, right? And I'll do it. And then like, I don't know, when I get to like my 1 RM, like I'm going for my top set, I just everything that I've been practicing just goes out the window and then I shift and I just whatever I've movement pattern that I've learned throughout the years, I just go right back to it.
I I'm not gonna get mad. I don't think I can relate to that because I feel like at this point I had totally unlearned a lot. But see, I was so extreme with
Yeah,
certain things that like once I've understood how to change it and then like my body felt better. So like I feel like my brain was like, no, this is the way, like please. Like
yeah,
specifically like, squatting, like about my back injury training for worlds, like my squat was
yeah,
full on like the stripper squat. So like that was what it was for like years, like
yeah,
years. Like I'm going to worlds with the stripper squat. Like my back is hurting every day. So like once I understood, like, wait, I understand now what like bringing the ribcage down means. Like, oh, I can't unlearn
yeah,
that one. Like, it saved my life. So, but like, I feel like that's pretty extreme. It's like I was doing blatantly horrible stuff, not tiny things. Like
yeah, yeah.
deadlift, same thing, arch back deadlift. Oh my god, so much pain.
What about now that you're working with a different coach? Do they kind of, because I know every coach kind of maybe has their little cue or their quirk that they do maybe a little bit differently. Even, all deadlifts are essentially the same, but maybe they just go about things a little bit differently. Do you find that the coach that you work with, so David Wilson now, does he have you trying something different than your old coach?
So what I love so far about David, what we on week 10. Oh no,
Damn.
11. We're on week 11.
Okay.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
So he has not made big changes to my technique at all. There's been one where specifically my deadlift, the first block, where I think I was too far away from the bar, so I would kind of overly rotate to get like to wedge towards the bar. And
Yeah.
like usually the squatty or deadlift, except mine was like not blatantly huge, so I didn't notice. So now I just start slightly closer and my hips are slightly higher and it feels better. He also brought my stance out slightly more for my feet out slightly more for deadlift. And that's it. We haven't made any squat changes, we haven't made any bench changes. And the deadlift one, like, really did make a difference. So I like that he's very much like, we're not gonna make changes unless we really need to. I feel like it's really gonna help your
Yeah.
positioning. And that's big because my former coaches, and I would just say like my former coach Brad, one thing about him, overall good experience, but one thing was he would kind of over like my squat, he would like over try to correct it when I would get to heavy loads. Like sometimes I would like over tighten my neck and like kind of like overly look up slightly, right? So he'd be like, oh, that's why you're kind of shifting forward. But for me, what I think I need is like that was too much for me. My brain never got it. It could only happen at heavy loads. And he would be like correcting it like on week 4. I'm like, I can't do this. Like you can't tell me to fix this right now. Like, I'm trying to survive the squat.
Yeah.
I can't. So I feel like David's a little bit less nitpick tiny stuff. And if he sees it on lighter weights, he'll fix it. And if it's like this slight adjustment happens at heavy weight, but it's still moving well, like he'll like leave it alone. So
Yeah. Or unless it's something that's like very obvious. Because like again, yeah, high load, obviously there's going to be some technical breakdown, right? But yes, if it's not happening at the lower load, it's like, eh,
yeah.
it's fine. Do you ever find that you revert? So you said that you and David kind of switched up. I mean, small changes, nothing huge. Have you ever forgotten and maybe set up a little too far behind and I was like, oh shit, I forgot.
That was the first like 2 weeks, but
Okay.
shockingly, and I'm saying shockingly, I really feel like I haven't had to fix something in a lift for so long that I thought it'd be a hard time. But after
Yeah.
a couple weeks, like he actually was like, "No, you're doing it." Because I was saying like, "Wait, I didn't do it." He's like, "No, you did do it. Like you did exactly what I told you to do." I'm like, "Wait, really?" Like I surprisingly fixed it in like 2 weeks, and I thought I was still messing it up.
Oh.
But again, I think it's because there have been such tiny changes. Like if I had more changes, I probably have more insight to give you. I'm
Yeah.
very happy that he didn't find anything to change in my bench technique. That made me very happy.
Were you nervous with bench?
My bench was like not I want to say plateauing, but it was just like I knew I could progress a little faster, and I think we like as of this past 2 blocks like really got my bench a lot better. And I was like, I wonder if like I need to do that stupid. Okay, I shouldn't say stupid. I have a lot of athletes to do it who I taught them how to do it, so I should definitely not say
I think I know what you're about to say.
stupid.
Wait, let me
How
see
do
it.
I call this stupid? When people have like their feet going forward when it. So and again, I don't know why I just said stupid. Literally, I just taught an athlete how to do this, and her bench is flying. Like her bench has improved so much. But for me, my body can't do it. I'm not doing it. I can't have that forward angle with like my ankle 6 inches in front of my knee. Like all it does is make my back hurt, and I feel dumb. Like because I can't.
I knew it. I was like, wait, is Is this what I knew exactly what you're talking about?
Yeah, I think it's just like my body. Like I have a short torso and long legs. Like there's something about it's just not clicking. But like I had a feeling that like I was like he's gonna change my feet position. It's gonna be horrible. I want to keep the feet tuck position. I'm a feet tucker. All right, leave it alone. Been doing it for like 10 years.
I think it's funny how everyone went from get your feet as far back behind you as you possibly can to get your feet out in front of you and push like forward so your body goes backward, and now it's this like thing. But and it does work, I guess. And there's people who, like me, want to switch it up, and that's totally okay. The problem that I have is it's a technique, right? And or it's a way to do the bench press, and that's fine. It works for a lot of people, but it may not work for everyone. And that's what a lot of people don't realize, is that it's a way to do something. You look at John Hack, he is a great squatter. He is also a high bar squatter, and it's a technique. And just because John Hack is a high bar squatter and has a great squat does not mean that I'm going to be a high bar squatter and squat like him and have all of a sudden my squat is going to skyrocket. Maybe it will. I don't know. Maybe that's what I'm doing wrong. And I just got a high bar squat and then I'm just going to squat like 500 pounds. So yeah, maybe you never know.
But no, I fully hear that though, because you're right. It's a technique. And for me, like for my athletes who I have doing this technique, like I look at their body type. And first of all, their bench has to not be going amazing. Like, it has to be like, I'm trying to get the technique better. And it's just like the leg drive's not hitting right. And so that's why I'm like, you know what? We have a lot of time for your next meet. Like, let's just try this and see if it feels better for you. My one athlete, Kelsey, who just hit like something like a 5.5 kilo bench PR, and which was crazy because like I thought it would be like at most 2 kilos that we get on the block, and she got like 5.5. I was like, what happened? She was like, I felt amazing. This block has been amazing. But for her, she had back pain
for some people, and that's great. But for some people, especially in PA, where you can only reduce your range of motion so much, that's also something you want to consider.
Yep. So. But I was gonna say for her, like she had back pain when she came to me. She was like, and bench triggers the back pain. So I was like, oh, like I think like having your feet tucked is actually making your back hurt more, and then her deadlifts were not going great, and that was part of it too. So I was like, oh, I think if we adjust your feet position, your back will simply hurt less. Like that's it. Like that was my whole reason for changing it, and it worked out amazing. But I was like, I needed a reason. It wasn't like, oh, this is the trend. Let's just change someone's bench press. Maybe been competing for 2 years.
Someone else did it, and it looks like their bench went up. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yep.
My feet stay tucked. Okay. When you get the intermediate to more advanced lifter,
what would I do?
Yeah, what do you do differently?
I guess that is when it would kind of depend on their training history. So if I've been working with them, they've been training for a while, it's easy because I can just go back and I can look at what they've done in the past and we can see what worked, what didn't work. If it's a newer athlete who's come to me and I would consider them, an intermediate lifter, I mean, that's where I just ask questions and, okay, well, what did you do in the past? What kind of seemed to work, what didn't work, and just trying to, like just asking them questions to figure out what went well. And a lot of times it will be either, someone was just training bench once a week in the past. And I'm like, all right, well, at that point we can probably, an easy fix is you probably just need a little bit more bench frequency. Or someone who was squatting and they were probably doing like 5 or 6 sets, and you see that their squats probably plateaued a little bit, and maybe historically they've done well right in the beginning, and then all of a sudden it's slowed down. We can look at that and be like, well, maybe we need to actually, instead of doing more volume, maybe we need to actually just take a step back, and see if, maybe we can get away with doing a little bit less, see if your body's recovering, and go from there. I always am of the mindset that I want to try to get away with doing as little as possible and getting stronger. So if you can do 2 sets in a workout and you're still getting stronger, like we're going to stick with 2 sets, right? Because I'd rather be able to add more from 2 than say we start you off at 4 or 5 sets and assume that you need more volume. And then all of a sudden we're at like 6, 7 sets. Yeah, 10 sets of 10. Like, oh my God, where do you go from that?
You quit sport. You're so annoyed.
Then you quit, and then you're like, I'm broken. My back's broken. My coach, I'm injured, and you're like, oh, why? Oh, you did 20 sets. Maybe that's why.
Maybe that's why. That doesn't remind me of one person I did good who I was like, Like my mouth dropped. I had never in my life, my mouth dropped when I saw the amount of volume plus intensity this person was doing. This is a master's athlete. Like early masters, like just became masters. But I was just like, I remember being like, okay, I'm gonna remain calm. So I was like, so do you feel like you recover from such and such? He was like, no. And I was like, do you feel like on the weekends, like when you have time off, you're like too physically exhausted to do stuff? Yeah, I do. I was like, woo, okay, all right. Gonna make some adjustments here. It's all good. It's all good. But yeah, I will honestly seconding a lot of what you said. I get a new person, new to me, but been competing. I'm definitely looking at the training history. It's the best when you're like, yeah, I've worked for the coach, or I wrote out my own training, but like in a spreadsheet where you can easily see everything. Because every once in a while I get that person who's like, here, it's kind of like a hodgepodge of stuff I was doing that I wrote out for myself. I'm like, I can't read this. I don't know what's going on here, so I can't use it. But yeah, like if I can look at data and get an idea of like what frequency you were doing, what lift you feel like it slowed down the most, or if all of them are, was there ever a time where it was increasing? That's my favorite question lately. Like, was there ever a time where this is going really well that you distinctly remember? Because when they can pinpoint that, I can just look at that, and every once in a while I'll just see it right there, like, yo, you clearly were doing like higher volume, and then you dropped the volume close to me. Oh, there you go. I'll take a mine now. Like, thank you for coming, and I will be fixing your bench very quickly.
That
You know what
was
I mean? Like,
fun.
that's the
Like,
best.
what did you do? You're like a magician, Solana. Oh my God. You just, wow.
But yeah, that's definitely the best. And then if they don't really have, I've had this before, they've been training for a few years, done 1 or 2 meets, but doing it all on your own, don't really have any data. I'm like, okay, so if you don't have data and you kind of like change it up a lot, like you were changing up what you're doing so often, like I can't even like pinpoint anything. I'm like, all right, here we go. Who is similar body type to you in your weight class who are already trained? And we're gonna do something similar. Similar. Obviously, if I had this person already for 6 years, because I have some athletes who have for a long time, I might like just look at that and like, let me just do like less volume than what she's doing. But like if your body type at least similar too, I can like give you some similar accessories and see if that works out. But like at that point, you're kind of just guessing, but you're making educated guesses. Like you're doing the main things that work. You're doing squat, bench, and deadlift. If you see a technique issue, you might do a movement that helps them with their technique issue. If you don't see any accessories that you're like this is glaring what they need, okay, cool. I'm gonna give you the basic ones. Like, do you have a leg press and or a belt squat and or a hack squat? Do you have machines for chest? Like, we're gonna do some back rows. Like, we'll just figure it out as we go. But yeah, that's really it. So the only difference is you get data, which is amazing, amazing, truly, if they have it.
I think you and I think I talked to you about this before, how coaches are not, I just called you a magician, that we're not, we're not magicians.
You're being sarcastic. I thought she really thought I was a magician.
That we basically, we don't know, right? Like we look at someone and they have, they have data, right? But at the end of the day, we're just making guesses, right? We don't have an answer. We're just making a guess. And we're like, well, based off of the experience that I've had and what I'm seeing, my educated guess is that making this change in your program is going to work. And the difference between an experienced coach and a new coach is that we are going to find the answer faster, right? Like, or this guess. The experienced coach is, the guess is probably going to be the correct answer, or we're going to find that answer faster. Like, so when we make a change, or that guess is going to be the answer faster than someone who's like, they're going to make more changes and it's going to be the wrong change or the wrong one before they make the right choice. Right? Like, that's the difference at the end of the day.
That's the main difference. And I always think about this now because I really look back, especially kind of so thankful we have so many ways to educate ourselves. I look back to like even 2 years ago, I'm like, yo, like why did it take me so long to figure this out about your movement, about your squat, about your deadlift? But like you just keep kind of collecting tools in a toolbox over time and understanding different techniques and different like training structures. And that's like the difference between like hiring the coach who's newer, who may be a little bit cheaper, and then hiring the coach who's been doing it for a really long time and they know like they have more successful athletes. Like the difference is you get to a result faster.
Mhm.
And
And
that's it.
well, historically, the coaching company that I had worked with a while back was a reputable company, if you didn't know any better, right? And was very much so like a block periodization company, or that was their philosophy in training. I'm not going to mention names. And now looking back, and this, I mean, I worked with this coaching company for a while, 4 or 5 years. So that was my style of programming for a long time. And it took a while for me to kind of start questioning as I was doing my own learning and continuing education. And I'm starting to question some of these methods that, as I'm reading, was kind of conflicting to what I was being told, what I, should be, this is how you're supposed to program because this is I don't know what my coach taught me and what I was learning. I'm like, but that says otherwise. And one of the issues, and at least, and this is, at the end of the day, this is an opinion, but just to give an example, in the form of like a traditional block periodization program for powerlifting. So if you're doing 3 sets of 8, in a hypertrophy block, right? Or however long, maybe it's 8 weeks, you're doing no strength for 8 weeks. So you're essentially not practicing your sport for 2 months, right? So if powerlifting is a strength sport where you're supposed to be hitting maxes, right, for singles, and you're doing 3 sets of 8 for 2 months, and maybe you're hitting squats, but the quality of those squats are probably shitty because 8 reps suck. So at the end of the day, you're just trying to get the set done because you're like, this sucks. Eight reps sucks. I just want to be done and over with. I don't care how these look. I'm just trying to get down and up. And I look at my old training videos and I see my sets of 8 and 10. I'm like, God, they look like shit.
Maybe, but the first 2 rounds are good though.
Yeah, the first couple were fine, but towards the end, and I know because I remember being like, oh my God, I got 5 more. I'm just trying to make it through this set. I don't care how it looked. I'm just trying to finish. And the quality of that workout would go way down. Even though you're getting in that volume, quote unquote, it's like the quality of those sets are very, very low. And at the end of the day, you're not practicing the skill of heavy singles, heavy weight on your back. And then all of a sudden you're going to sets of 3 when you're doing sets of 8 to 10. And now it's like, oh, well, here's a heavy triple. I'm like,
And you don't even know like how, like your body's like, wait, what weight do I do? Like your brain, I guess, like what weight
yeah,
do
and
I
you're like,
do?
holy shit, this is heavy. And then you're like, oh, I'm 4 weeks out from a meet. Now I have to start practicing singles.
Yes, I know. I may or may not have a client currently who may or may not have been using the company that you may or may not be speaking about, and we don't want me together. I think we're going on 6 blocks now. And she made a post yesterday or 2 days ago, like, oh, Solana has gotten my bench press up by 12.5 pounds and like since January, like, like hire her. And I was like,
worker. Oh my God, she's so great. And it's like, no, you're just like, I mean, not to say you aren't.
you're practicing. I know, I hear you, right? It's like, I'm not gonna lie, I'll be out here doing the program.
Like, I know I'm great.
But no, like it was very simple. Like this is a very lightweight lifter, and she was doing so many sets of 10, and like just like her bench did not improve for 3 years.
Yeah,
Also a long time. And I was like, we're gonna do. I basically told her, and she's someone who started coaching other people too. So I was like, let me like actually explain to you exactly what I'm doing. Like, give you details about what I'm gonna do. And it's a lot of higher intensity bench throughout the week, a lot of singles and doubles on a daily basis. We do like a single or a double versus like 8s and 10s. And then overall, I think there's one day where she does like 5 or 6 reps, but besides that, everything's like 4 and under, and it's like heavy intensity, and like her bench is skyrocketing. And so, like some people have learned things from the past. It's like we just need to keep learning because there are trends in people that made it pretty clear, like bench response to intensity. Yeah.
I wonder why I have glute pain. I'm like, wow, you should have looked at those sets of 10 that I was doing and look at that squat.
You have any pain
anymore? Huh?
You have any pain anymore?
It's there. It's one of those like I've learned to manage it at this point. It's like I know I feel like it's always gonna be there. And as long as it's like I know the days that I can push it and the days where I'm like, I need to, all right, stop here before I do something stupid. But I do think a lot of it, looking back at my training before, is because yeah, I think the quality of my reps were less important than getting the workout done.
Got you. Okay. Our last topic. I'm excited to hear your take because I think I'll have something very different to say. Mostly because I'm not going to talk about male athletes as much on this one, but talking to your athletes, do you talk to your male athletes any differently than you speak to your female athletes? I guess I mean in terms of like either encouragement or just like communicating any like changes to them, technique changes, stuff you need to fix, whatever it is. Do you feel like you have to make it very different from gender to gender? I can't say gender. Gender to gender.
Yeah. I mean, probably less so with, I think we talked about programming before. But the way that I talk, I think it'd probably be less so gender, but just personality. And I always say this to any athlete or potential athlete that I'm working with is even you and I, we have different personalities, right? You're probably more, not strict is a good, I don't think strict would be a good word, but you're more like, hey, if you don't get your workout in, like, why didn't you get your workout on? You better have a good explanation as to why you didn't get your training in. Like, I think you're understanding if you're like, hey, there's, no electricity in my car. I don't know, like got in a car, I can't make it to the gym, right? Like, as long as you have a valid reason, I think you're understanding. As opposed to like, hey, I was really upset today and I didn't feel like going. I feel like you'd be like, I need a better excuse than that. Where I'd be like, it's okay. I understand. I get like that. You can go tomorrow.
Response that was done.
Uh, but so I think a lot of these are, it's a personality thing where some people maybe want someone, and I could be wrong. Maybe you're nicer than I think you are. I have no idea.
No, I'm not mean. I swear.
But you know what I mean? How there's people who like coaches have different personalities, right? Like we maybe have the same training style or philosophy, but at the end of the day, like your personality is different. So I think maybe I have like a motherly instinct because maybe that's how I want to be treated. Is I want like my coach to like, if I have a bad workout and like pat in the back, it's okay, Kristen, you can do it next time. But maybe someone doesn't want that. They want to be like, get in the gym, mother, you little bitch, and like smack the head or what. I don't know, but like that's not me. That's not my personality. If you want me to call you a little bitch, like that's just it's not gonna happen. Sorry.
Just ask me. I'll do it. Well, you gotta ask Chris. Okay.
You're gonna have to go to another coach. I'm sorry. Like if those people who like get smacked in the face, like I'm not gonna smack you in the face on the way to a platform. I just don't do it. So I would say maybe that's more of a thing than maybe like who I work with. So I think I get along with people who just like to be it's like a friendship, like not friend, because at the end of the day you're still like their coach, but you can talk to me about things. I'm still understanding of things that are non-powerlifting related, if that makes sense.
I hear you.
So you can tell me all the things how I got you wrong and you're
Well, let me give you an example. I happened very recently. So I had an athlete, and I still have her. All right, now hold on. No, I have an athlete, and it was only a few weeks ago where. So I was actually on my little staycation, so I wasn't talking as much throughout that week for my athletes. I told them in advance that, so we knew that. We get to the end of the week, I get to like updating programs. This person has a blank week, right? So they're like, "Hey, like I had a very tough week. I was doing blah blah, and like it was really like stress and anxiety led to like I don't think I should train this week, right?" So I was understanding in a sense of okay, like at this point we're going to just move forward. We can't go back in time. I'm not going to stress out about the past week. But we did get on a call, and I was like, "Hey, we need to change your goals, or maybe adjust them temporarily. You told me you had these goals of like maybe hitting certain numbers, or like really being serious and being like the strongest you can get, and like maybe getting to nationals at this point." And I just think that, or I know that with what's currently been going on with like how frequently you're training, those goals will not be met right now. So what is your new goal? And I just got quiet. And I'll let them tell me. And that's all it is. Like I'm just a very realistic person. Like you can have a bad week, a stressful week, and like I can't get to the gym mentally, blah blah. And I won't even lie and say like, hey, I can relate to that. Like for me, I'm the kind of person like when the world is crumbling around me, when the worst of the worst happening in my life, I'm getting to the gym. I have to get to the gym. If I don't get to the gym, like now I'm actually falling apart. So like that's just how it's been for me. That's my relationship with training. Yeah. Right. So not everyone has that relationship. So I can understand that maybe the thing you run to is not the gym. I'm running to the gym. I'll sleep at the gym. Forget it. Like, you know what I mean? I don't even go home. Like, I'll sleep at the gym. That's not everybody. So I'm understanding of it, but I'm like, I'm just too realistic to be like, oh, it's okay. Let's just move on. Like, no, we don't have to talk about this though. Like, what can we do? So like right now, this person, we have adjusted the training to 3 times a week. And I made it like only what they need, no more. And I'm like, these training sessions should take like an hour to hour and a half at most. And I do expect you to get them done. And then text me when you're done. You know what I mean? Like that's what we're gonna do. So that's more so me in that area.
love.
Is that the word for it? I don't mind me. If you want to say it tough love, I don't mind it. My clients, one thing they're gonna say about me, I'm very straightforward and blunt. I'm gonna tell you it, and I definitely know I'm thankful that with my group chat, I have my athletes, like they've made friends, so they will text each other for the softness that they need when they know they're gonna come to me and they're gonna get.
Are you just in a group chat with everyone or what?
My whole team, yeah.
Like in a Discord or
Instagram.
Oh, okay.
I
do you add people and like do you keep old athletes in or do you
I do remove all athletes, and it's not even like about it. It's like, hey, just DM me personally if you ever need anything. If you want to join again, let me know. But yeah, I do put them in.
I had people doing like Discord for a while, but it's like people don't communicate as much. I guess maybe people aren't on Discord. I don't know.
It depends. Like Natalie for nutrition has Discord. I feel like the people talking there. I tried Discord, and I think because I do have a decent amount of masters athletes, on top of open people who just didn't want to go on Discord, it wasn't happening. Like people were not posting and responding. So I said, you know what? Everyone's on Instagram, but y'all be tagging me all the time, so we're just gonna go Instagram.
Maybe it's just the platform. I need to do Instagram or
I vote Instagram.
Maybe I have to do a poll.
There you go, beautiful. But I just feel Instagram. If they're on Instagram already, do it. If people aren't
I
on
have
this.
clients who are not on Instagram. Then there's
Okay,
like
well,
Facebook, and I got clients
you
who
can't
are.
do Facebook. No, you can't do
I
Facebook.
got clients who are
We're
from
not on Facebook at
18
all.
to 70. I have a client who's he just turned 70, and he was one of my general population clients. That's another thing too, is some of my clients are not power lifters. I have a client who's actually doing a marathon, and then who's doing a powerlifting meet and a marathon a week later.
Oh,
And yes, he's like, I know I'm not going to be the strongest, but that's not his goal. He's just like, I'm a psycho and I want to do both. And I'm like, as long as you know you're a psycho and that's fine.
cool.
Yeah. So I have like just crazy, so I have athletes that just do a lot of shit. So I had one athlete who's started off as a gen pop. I competed. He watched me compete. He's like, I signed up for a competition.
We love that.
But then I was like, you're gonna have to start sending me your videos, and now we got to make sure you're at depth.
There we
So
go. I like that.
it'll be fun.
Okay,
But I'm
but
active on Instagram.
yes. But I do want to get to, so my current roster right now is all women. I appeal more to women with my tough love and all my motherly skills that are so harsh. But
Surprising. I'm about 50-50.
nice. I will say it's as simple as personality. I, believe it or not, definitely will respond softer to certain people than others. I know for a fact certain people, if I say like, if I'm like, just that wasn't that great of a squat, like fix this in this period, like they'll like maybe cry a little bit when they respond back. You know what I mean? It's like I've had people who are like softer. I'm like, I'll just adjust how I text it. That's why I love online coaching. I can like write something out and they'd be like, you know what, I should add 2 emojis, a comma, and a smiley face in here.
Exclamation point.
Yep.
I
Like,
have
I
had
love
clients where
online.
I'm like I feel like maybe they're very sensitive, and I always sometimes like if I text them or something, it's always like, hey, exclamation point.
Yep, you be at me.
Great job today. Your squats look awesome. Just try this. Da, 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 da,
Yep. So
great work.
yeah. And then I have some people who I'm like, my clients right here.
What the fuck was that?
Like, gulp, period. Yeah, period.
Dot.
Oh, okay. So they know what whelp means. So, womp. But yeah, no, I just adjust the person. I have trained men in the past. I won't say they're necessarily easier or not, because most of my athletes aren't like on the hypersensitive part anyways on scale, but if they are, just adjust the message. And on meet day's easy. I'm very understanding on meet day. I'm just like trying to adapt to what you need. It's not hard.
I think I'm more stressed on meet day. That's why I honestly am not like, I shouldn't say this. I don't love handling in person. That's fine. So I will, sorry, I like coaching and I like online, but in person, because I'm so stressed and I feel like I get more stressed than my athletes. And then if I'm a like stress basket and I'm stressing my athletes out, then I feel bad because I'm stressing them out. And I'm like, I'm sorry.
I just see, you gotta learn how to mask all of it. You just hide the stress and act like ain't nothing wrong. Maybe it's because I've been doing it my whole life, not even just
I've done it. It's stressful, and I feel bad if I mess something up. So I just I'll just be like, hey, Solana, are you going to be at nationals next week? Can you coach some of my athletes?
Hey, Kristen, between all the media I'm doing, the coaching I'm doing, and the competing I'm doing, I cannot.
No, I got people, so you're not.
I know. I feel bad. Like I've had people ask me. I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm commentating. I am commentating all prime times. All prime times. I would assume I'll be in the prime time for 6 and 7, so I'm not commentating that session. But all prime times are being commentated by me and Leo. Super excited. Yay! All right. One thing I want to ask the people: if there's a topic you want us to talk on, please just DM us.
Or leave a comment. Can they leave comments?
Yes, they can. You can leave a comment on the actual podcast, and I do read them.
Ooh. Yeah, we a comment, and then we could read them live and answer the question. We should do a Q&A.
I was about to say, I actually promised that I would be reading any, what's it called?
Questions
reviews that we get, and then we got a couple of reviews, and I will read one now. I will read it now. Okay, here we go.
1 star.
Oh, hey, we have all 5 stars. Some might give us 4 stars at some point, but we have all 5 stars. Okay, July 30th, 2024, from 101 Baston, Bastogne, Baston.
Stone.
I'm gonna go with the stone. Probably.
Stone.
This podcast is quickly becoming one of my favorites. I enjoy the perspective of being both a coach and competitive athlete that Solana and Kristen bring. I love that they cover topics that are informative for both beginner and advanced lifters. 5 stars. Thank you.
We'll have to start getting more, or encouraging more, and then we can do one in the beginning at the end or something.
I agree. And I do actually encourage them in the intro. I make the intro and I will say it.
Okay.
So I've been asking for every podcast episode for a long time. Please do leave us a 5-star rating and review, y'all. We appreciate it. That's it. We're done. You did it. Okay. Don't, if you go on Hinge, be careful. That's my last takeaway. If you go on Hinge, be careful. It's hard out here.
Like Amazon wedding registries.
Yeah.
And go on their IG live too.
Yeah. No, that was YouTube. Find their YouTube.
Go on their YouTube.
Yes. Oh my God. Psycho.
Don't date. You're just safer that way.
If you think you will check off my list of qualities I'm looking for, please DM me. Make it easier. Come to me.
DM Kristen a resume for Solana's future boyfriend. How about that? And then we can go over all the resumes that I get, and we can pick Solana's future boyfriend.
I don't know about these episodes. That might be between two of us. All right.
That would be amazing.
Anywho, catch y'all next time on the Power and Listen podcast.